Good morning, Christopher. Since you actually did film a video on the 13th and you only posted it late, your actions are acceptable and you will be forgiven, but I highly advise you not to do it again. My aim in this video is twofold. First, I have to talk about Neil Gaiman because he's the first thing I thought of when I woke up. And second, I have to correct some misconceptions and address some confusions on the topic of Superman. Neil Gaiman is a British writer who I believe is currently living in America. He is known for writing for novels, well, not writing for novels, he actually writes novels, writing comic books, and he's also written some television projects. One of his most famous comics is Sandman, and one of his most famous novels is a children's novel called Coraline, which was turned into a fantastic stop-motion animated film last year. Neil Gaiman, last year he wrote a book called The Graveyard Book, which was absolutely fantastic, and I highly recommend it. And it won both the Newbery Award, which is the highest award for American children's fiction, and I guess it counts as American because he was living in America when he wrote it, and also it won the Hugo Award, which is the most prestigious award for science fiction. Neil Gaiman was also highly rumored to be writing an episode or episodes of next year's series of my favorite program, Doctor Who. Whether that's because he was actually in negotiations to do so, or whether it's just a crazy rumor, who can say? But that would have been kind of cool. It didn't really pan out. Neil Gaiman, I think the reason he was on my mind, maybe I had a dream about him, it would be kind of weird, but the reason he was on my mind is because yesterday it was announced that he had been, he announced his engagement to Amanda Palmer, the musician and internet personality who he has been dating for some time. I've already been talking for more than 2 minutes. The other thing I want to talk about is Superman. I submit to you that Superman is actually rather weak because he is so easily beaten. In fact, having kryptonite means you automatically win against Superman. I will, however, acknowledge that Superman is obviously the strongest superhero. But I also do think it's kind of unfair to criticize Superman on that level because the character was not designed to inhabit a shared universe with other superheroes. So the notion of comparison between them was a complete non-issue. Now, one of the things I often hear is, if Superman is hurt by kryptonite and his home planet is made of kryptonite, why don't all the Kryptonians just die? So there are two responses to this. One, Superman's home planet wasn't made of kryptonite. When Krypton was destroyed, kryptonite was produced. Kryptonite was not even present on the planet while the Kryptonians were living on it. And the second explanation is that Superman gains his powers from photosynthesis of the yellow sun, and the way kryptonite works is to suspend that photosynthesis in such a way that the stored solar energy is violently expelled from all of his cells, making him extremely sick. And since Krypton orbits a red sun and not a yellow sun, and by the way, Chris, it was not the sun that exploded, it was the planet, kryptonite wouldn't have such a violent effect on the Kryptonians, even if it did exist on Krypton. Now, on the topic of Superman being the last son of Krypton, there aren't many other surviving Kryptonians, but I'm about to explain to you who they are. There's the criminals who are locked away in the Phantom Zone, which is another dimension that serves as a prison. And then, of course, there's Superman's cousin Kara, who was a teenager that was sent to Earth to prepare the planet for the infant Superman. But Kara got stuck in her ship, which suspended her aging, and by the time she got out of the ship, she was still the same age, but the infant Superman had actually grown up into the big Superman. And then there's Superboy. Now, you were confused over whether Superboy was a different character entirely, or just a very young Superman, and that's a valid confusion because he's both. When most people talk about Superboy, they're talking about the young Superman. But in current continuity, there's another Superboy character named Connor, who's a sort of genetically altered clone of Superman, and he's the one who currently uses the name Superboy. So that means that in mainstream DC Comics continuity, most of the time, the only real bona fide Kryptonians from this universe are Superman and Supergirl. Technically, I guess you could say he's not the only surviving Kryptonian, but he's the last surviving Kryptonian because he's the youngest and he's also the last to leave the planet. So I shall end this with a haiku. Neil Gaiman writes stuff. Sometimes he writes comic books, but not Superman.